Python mocks. What are they and how can we use them? Let's learn to code. How to use mocks. Mocks are used in testing, so let's start with a program that we want to test. This is a program called Short Tweeter. It asks you what you want to tweet, modifies the message to be under 40 characters, then tweets it. We'll go through the program first before we get to mocks, so we understand what it's supposed to do. Starting from the bottom, if we execute this program from the command line, main is called. In main, we create the Twitter API. You don't have to worry about the details here. These are just API keys you can get from Twitter to make this work. The Twitter interface, by the way, is called Python Twitter and is available by pip installation. We create the API, then we ask the user what they want to tweet. We then call tweet with the API and the message that the user typed in. Inside of tweet, the message is checked, and if it's over 40 characters, we strip away the punctuation. We check it again, and if it's still over 40 characters, we change all the CKs and EXs to Xs. We check again, and if it's still over 40, we change ands to ampersands. And finally we check again, and if it's still over 40, it uses I can't be concise and posts a link to this video. So that's it. It's a very basic program, but it's enough that we can use this to demonstrate how mocking works. So how do we test our Python function? We start with a skeleton of a unit test. Just as a quick review, a unit test in Python is made by importing unit test up here, creating a class that derives from unittest.testCase, creating tests by defining methods that start with test underscore, and then making assertions. You can use the unit test's assert functions for this. Finally, invoking the whole thing with unittest.main. To test our program, we have to import it first. So we import Short Tweeter. We want to test the tweet function, so we're going to be calling shorttweeter.tweet. But now comes the problem. What do we pass into this function to test it? It wants a Twitter API. And how do we check on the message? What we get back is a status, when we're really interested in the message parsing portion. Just as a note, before we solve this problem with mocks, the other way to solve it is to break this function apart. We can split off the string modifying portion of the function into its own function that just takes in a string and returns the modified string. And that's a great way to solve it. In fact, that should be the preferred way to solve it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we don't want to modify this function in any way. It's legacy code, or it's very complicated, or it's your boss's favorite. Whatever the reason, we don't want to modify this. We have to test it as is. Sometimes this happens in the real world, and you just have to roll with it. So we solve it with mocks. We're going to generate a mock and pass it in. It's going to take the place of this API, and then it gets called with post update. Mocks have a special property that any function called on them records the call and returns another mock. So back here, we're going to make assertions that it was called with the correct message. First you import it. I like to do from mock import mock. In later versions of Python, mock is included in unit test under unittest.mock. So if you have Python 3 or greater, check there. We create mock underscore Twitter as an instance of mock, and now we just pass that mock into the function. We're going to make an assertion on the mock, but just for illustrative purposes, I'm going to print the mock calls first. This is a special function on a mock that will display the calls that have been made on it. Also note, if you have any trouble running this, you may have to pip install mock. So we run it, and it shows the post update call. Good. Now we can call the mock's assert called with method and put the string we expect. And if we run it again, we see it passes. That's really all there is to it. We're now testing the function without posting to Twitter. So if we want to test the stripping of punctuation, we can do that. Just copy this test and modify it to have extra punctuation. Piece of cake. You can see how we can keep going with this. And anytime we want to run through all the tests, it's a simple command line invocation. That's an intro to mocks. In my next video, I'll go into more things you can do with them and what to do if you're not passing in the object that you want to mock. Links and references are below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.